the sap is dripping. The season has really shifted since the last time I was here. When the sap flows up here in Maine, where we are, everything has a little bit of a feeling of movement and momentum and sound. It's like the sound has changed, the birds have changed, the light has changed. It's daylight savings time, which really seems to be throwing me for a loop this time, trying to get a handle on shifting my schedule. Having it light later is strange, but it's easy to talk about daylight savings time being a pain in the butt. But something is really different here, and I guess that's the return of spring. A little bit of hope, a little bit of, fear around did I rest enough? As there's a sense of something coming. And that something could be as simple as summer, planting gardens, being outside, making different kinds of plans. But I have to say there's a feeling of revolution around. Clearly, I'm not the only one saying that, feeling that. That feeling gives this sense of duty to participate some way. And this is the funny part about this. The duty to participate feels like it involves this deep integrity and this not being willing to leave any part of myself behind as I activate, become an activist, stand up for what I believe in. Hello and welcome, or welcome back. I'm your host, Anne Headley, and this is my podcast, What is Going On Anyway? Here I practice 2-week cycles and report back every new and full moon. I wonder over universal themes and how they show up for us in these moon cycles. And as I reach for meaning, using my intuition and imagination to tell a story about this moment now, I find myself resting in the richness of paying attention to life exactly as it is, exactly how it shows up for us. This is my 3rd season, and I'm starting to believe that I can schedule my time in these 2-week cycles. I can feel myself slowing down enough to appreciate life in longer chunks of time. And this is this funny thing. I was laying there thinking, it would be so nice if everyone could just switch over to 2 weeks rather than 1 week. Like, I'll schedule with you every 2 weeks and open up the spaciousness, the feeling of what I was meant to accomplish inside of a week. I just feel a lot of like this time feels like it goes so fast. 1 week is not enough for me to rest into certain activities. I don't think it's because I'm doing too much. I don't think I'm doing too much. I think it's just a kind of, I was having this wish that the rest of the world would do something that I want. And all of a sudden it just dawned on me, light bulb moment. I can schedule my life that way. There's certain things in my life, like the podcast I'm scheduling that way. There's certain things in my life that I could think of in terms of a 2-week cycle. Like I could try to accomplish this inside of 2 weeks, and that will be my working cycle. And then I was like, well, it makes sense, doesn't it? Because that's the way the moon is. And that flow of the moon has started to become so interesting and important to me. I don't know if you feel it right now, but with this full moon, this whole week of the full moon, it's like, what is all this light happening at night? It's different. And then those cozy new moons really have a different feeling tone to them. For me, I've talked about this plenty. I'm just sharing with you the realization that there was something that I was sort of hesitating on, wishing the rest of the world would do it for me. And then I thought, oh, there is no reason why, in even the smallest ways, I can't start to instigate that. I can't start to block off my calendar in 2-week chunks. Nobody's stopping me from that. That's like complete freedom that I have to be the change I wish to see in the world. To have to say it like that. How many other ways are there like that? All the wishes. And we've been talking about wishes a lot this year. I've been talking about wishes with a lot of people this year. And can my wishes be something that, in the smallest of ways, I just insist on in my life by treating them as if they're real, like bringing imaginary friends to life, setting a table for them? Did I just skip too far there when I said that? I hope you know what I mean. Like a lot of these things, these wishes for me are imaginary possibilities of this new kind of world, this new way of being in the world. And it's like, what am I waiting for? I can bring these things into my everyday life some way, even if it's just a symbolic gesture. I think there's something about that here with this full moon. I'm feeling I described it like this yesterday, this feeling of a big freight train behind me, and I'm kind of strapped in, and I'm trying to pull it along and pull it along. And it is a freight train with a lot of mass, and so it will begin to have some momentum and have like an easiness about it eventually, but this dragging along until the momentum is enough to have it. And once it gets going like that, the feeling is that I'll be able to hop on board and take the ride. But it is this feeling right now of pull. And I think this is around this full moon. My intuitive understanding of this is this feeling of pulling this important and heavy weight forward through time and space. And sometimes these ideas without time and space are light and easy and fluid and fun and angelic almost, like sparkly. Right now, it just feels like some of these thoughts, ideas, wishes, like the wishes for the new earth, are just being pulled through the muck, like mucky muck. A lot of stuckness kind of energy, tamasic energy. So if I just stay with the intuitive part of this right now, the other thing that I need to express is around how important our thinking is. And I kind of hate having to share this because this is not something that I'm any good at. This is actually quite challenging for me and probably for a lot of us. But the thing that seems important to mention, even though you might be hearing this from lots of other places, like I also feel very weary, very tired and exhausted by thinking I'm some sort of advice giver. And still, I'm going to be doing that. I'm just a little weary, I guess. Not for you to feel sorry for me about that. I just don't even know if it matters to say it out loud anymore. But I'm going to say this one bit, which is our thinking is so important and powerful, and we don't know it. That seems like the thing to share, is that it actually matters what we think. It actually really, really matters what we think. And if sometimes you could imagine a perspective like sort of an omniscient perspective. And if you could have an interaction with someone, like a totally regular interaction, and just imagine that they could hear what you were thinking and pay attention in that way. And then imagine, and I'm talking about like regular thinking, like somebody in your daily life says something and you're just tired. You don't really want to interact. And you kind of say maybe something in your head like, I wish this could be done so I could get on to my next thing. Or I don't know what you would say, but you know what I mean. Just pay attention and see if you can imagine someone being able to hear your thoughts. And maybe not in the moment. Just imagine, like, you know, these days how like everything is recorded. So somebody is a nasty asshole at the supermarket, and then they're able to pull up footage of that from the supermarket and replay it so that somebody might see it again. Imagine that there was footage of your inner thinking. And actually, I'm not saying this in order to like freak you out, like surveillance kind of freak you out. I'm just saying, imagine that there was a way of doing like a little replay. You replay a scenario and you can hear what the other person's thinking and they can hear what you're thinking. And I'm saying this because we like to practice kindness and like we're really sweet to each other in most cases. And we say nice things. Oh, you look great today. How are you doing? And often we can say things that trying to make other people feel better, feel good. We are pretty kind to each other in general. And also, we can do that in our thinking without even saying anything at all. We can offer these little sweetnesses, these little presents in our thoughts to each other. And there doesn't have to be any like outer recognition of that. So if you could imagine having like a little replay, it might be kind of horrifying sometimes if people could hear what you were thinking, like the kind of judgments that just come when you're in space with someone. And I just wonder if you feel that you have any agency over shifting some of those thoughts, those inner thoughts, using this thought experiment of a kind of like replay mechanism that you could hear it back. You know, I've sometimes had these judgmental thoughts that if there was a replay, it would be very hurtful and devastating. And I have lately been imagining that my inner thinking would be, if there was such a thing, like say, I don't know if you ever watch this, but sometimes I'll go onto a YouTube rabbit hole around the near-death experience people. There's lots and lots of videos of people who describe their near-death experiences. And they all say there's like a life review, or maybe not all of them, but a lot of them say that there's this like life review. And you get to see an interaction between yourself and everyone that you interact with and sort of see the whole picture in a way of like understanding interactions and understanding a bigger perspective. And that they see when they've said something kind to someone that they didn't even think twice about it and how much it affected and changed that person's day. And also the opposite, when they've been unkind and they saw how that affected not just that one interaction, but how that had like a chain reaction in other aspects of life. And the reason this is coming up right now is because I don't know how, and maybe it won't be obvious, but the feeling is, the intuitive hit is that we're going to understand how important our thinking is and be able to use it for good, like a superpower. And right now, the image is a little bit more like we're all just walking around smoking cigarettes. And, you know, I know you can smoke cigarettes if you want, but we all kind of know that's not such a great idea for your health. And it's kind of like if you continue to smoke cigarettes, it's not that you don't have the information. There's something else going on. And I think that's kind of that with our negative thinking. In the negative thinking, what I'm talking about is like you could have generative negative thinking that might be useful, that might be getting you somewhere. I'm talking about the habitual, the addictive thinking, the kind of thinking that's like, oh, I'm fat and ugly and never going to get anywhere, and I'm just don't want to ever do anything, and I'm lazy, and that kind of thinking that you're not trying to generate that. It just pops up. This habitual, addictive kind of thinking is like we're all just sitting around smoking cigarettes and not addressing something, not addressing that addiction in the room. And I think that it just seems important. It just seems really important right now. Some people think that not this particular full moon, but the spring equinox, so March 21st, is significant to us. That, the predictions are we will see something significant. I don't really like those sort of predictions because in my experience, nothing really comes of those things. But some folks are saying, well, this is the actual end of Kali Yuga, which is a period of time of kind of death, destruction, and war, and that the next age or era is quite different. I tend to like that story. I tend to kind of get my little fingers hooked into that story because it makes me feel better. And I do think that stories that make us feel better are worth holding on to because I think it generates a feeling inside of us of comfort and safety that is necessary in order to deal with the reality that may not be comfortable and safe feeling. So I'm not advocating for dissociation, but I am really depending on a lot of ways to soothe and comfort and generate good feelings inside of myself as we go through what feels very often these days like difficult times, hard, the strangest times, just in the news. Like, I think this is part of the plan, like part of Trump's plan. But, I think the last episode, there was some other thing that was like, oh yeah, it was that insane AI video. Just maddening. So this time, there's this news blip about Trump buying a Tesla, a whole song and dance and pony show about buying a Tesla that he's not driving, and and also that whole thing about any kind of reaction one way or another. We're talking about preferences and aversions, and any time you feel yourself so if he was doing something wonderful, that almost has a similar effect because it's like hooking me into that story. So good or bad, I'm not trying to get hooked into a Trump story. Obviously, I already am. I think what I'm seeing around that sort of stuff is that we've always had presidents that make deals. And we've always had presidents that use their influence to further something that they want, something that they believe in, something that will benefit them. And this is just, in my opinion, kind of outrageously obvious. And I'm taking that as a way of understanding that this office of president in the United States hasn't been what we thought it was. We tend to think of it as the highest office in the land and full of integrity, and we have our brightest and our best are chosen of all. I just think about being kids and wondering and hoping maybe one day I could be president, as if that was the winning the game somehow. That was the best of the best. And I think there's something breaking down kind of right in front of my eyes, which is that office, which I expected to hold this deep integrity and respect, that actually it isn't what I thought it was. Especially if we can't protect it. And if we can't protect our democracy, maybe our democracy wasn't what we thought it was. And I just want to slide right back to the preferences and aversions. I didn't quite get to say what I wanted to say about that. In meditation, in yoga philosophy, when you have preferences and aversions, both of them affect the mind in such a way that takes you away from a relaxed and even state. And that relaxed, even state of mind is this receptive state that generates really good feelings of peace, love, joy, all of the things that we really do think that we want to experience, and that many people would say is our natural state of being. And these preferences and aversions, we get hooked into our own storylines and political storylines, and it grabs us one way or the other. And either way, whether you're feeling great about something or feeling awful about something, it changes that evenness of your mind that when it stays steady becomes receptive to the natural human state of being, which is an kind of enthusiasm and joy and wonder, that sense of wanting to be here because it's so wonderful. And it's a kind of feeling like if you've ever done mushrooms or gotten high in some way. I'm laughing because my experience is so little. But if you have ever been in an altered state, I get this feeling when I do the cold dipping and I come out and I'm like, life is worth it. That feeling of being alive and joyful and wanting to be here, I think is more of our natural state than not. And most of us have been so far away from that. It's almost like we only believe it comes in these tiny little blips. And I wonder if we really were moving into a new age, if that would be more present for us in our daily life. The sense of really being in awe of the coincidences and the synchronicities and the beautiful ways to experience our world. One other thing I will say is that right now, this full moon might be helping you let go of some things, clear some things out, declutter. I don't know. I mean, I do know that I had all of my books off of bookshelf, and then I organized them by color, and I got rid of some of them. Like that was the kind of this energy coming around this moon for me. So, quick little recap here. We might have some big changes. And if we do have big changes, it might be important to have a handle on how you think, have a handle on your thinking mind. Sort of like, let's imagine that I was like, hey, everybody, we're about to go on this trip. And this trip is going to involve a lot of hiking. And you would benefit by walking and gradually getting yourself up so that you could comfortably walk 5 miles a day without being too tired or sore at the end of the day. And you've got a few weeks to prepare for this. And so you wouldn't let a day go by where you didn't give yourself a little walkabout. And that's a little bit what it feels like to me, that I'm telling you, hey, there's going to be some changes coming. We're going to take a little mind trip, and it's going to require that you use the facility of centered and focused thought. That you're going to need to think a thing and then have that thing happen. And if you're not practiced at it, then it's going to be hard. And if your thinking is ruled by this kind of junk thinking of just the lowest quality thought comes up because you're not pushing back, or you don't have any strength against it, or it's just like it's just whatever's hanging around. It's like clutter, it's like mind clutter. And so you're just kicking it around, and you kick one thing and it knocks another thing over in your thinking. But there is a way to sort of like declutter your mind. And one of the things is like what I had talked about, I don't know if it was the last podcast or the one before, but remember when I was really feeling that desire to drop down into my body and really use breath work to feel myself landing in my body. That's one really good way of decluttering the lowest quality thought mind, is just sending it down through the body and into the earth. Let it be recycled. I didn't want to come here and be like, you need to do this and you have homework. But it doesn't matter. That's what's coming up here. You need to do this, and you have homework. And when I say you, I mean myself. And only you, if you want to join me in this kind of homework. Just imagine if all of your dreams and wishes and desires were waiting for you on the other side of spring, on the other side of March 21st. And that's a lot. You've put a lot over there, and you're going to need a strong, clear mind to handle all that joy. Let's see what the I Ching has to say about this. How about it? So, dear Oracle, what would you have us know about this full moon now? Aha! I was feeling a little silly just for a quick, hot second there, because this feels very kind of joyful and positive, and I thought, well, what if it's not? People be mad at me. But the I Ching backs us up here. We get hexagram 55, one of my very favoriteest, abundance. The question to ask here is, what are you called on to do? What decisions must you take now? This is a cornucopia, a wealth of resources, but also a wealth of choices, tasks, and demands. This is the crucial moment where it all comes together. The name of the hexagram abundance is also the name of the garrison city where King Wen made final preparations for the overthrow of the Shang rulers. There, Wen died, and his son Wu had to decide whether to observe the prescribed period of mourning in isolation or take command of the armies at once. He was given a sign, a total eclipse of the sun at noon. Divination revealed that it was not time for Wu to mourn. He had received heaven's mandate to conquer the Shang and should make the right offering to the earth in preparation for war, so the darkness of Shang rule would come to an end. In a time of abundance, you find that despite what you have lost, there is a new charge given to you that leaves no place for sorrow or anxiety. It is not the time to hide yourself away and grieve the past. Decide what you will do, take it on, make the practical preparations, and march out. Well, that was a bit intense of a story, wasn't it? Because that's not just like love, joy, and abundance. It's like kind of serious. Time to take charge and create the world that you want. And it might be a little bit tough. But also, this is the time that you've been waiting for, I think. And this is why you have to have a good handle on how your thinking mind works. You're going to have to go get it. Go get this life that you have been waiting for, that you want. And it's not a huge thing. Like last time, it was one small thing. What's the one small thing that you can hold and just keep close to you? And maybe that one small thing is just hope. And now it's taking that and sort of moving forward with it. Yeah, it moves to hexagram 62, small exceeding. Do you need to cross a line? What small things can you do to meet the needs of the situation? Small things. What could you do right now in 5 minutes that would make a difference? Sometimes that's like, I could put my laundry away. Now, because the laundry, and that is what I need to do right now. Because I have this pile of laundry that's on my bed, and I do not like to go to sleep with laundry on the foot of my bed, even though I have a giant king-size bed, and it would make no difference at all. But when I put it away, I sleep better. And it's one small thing, and it takes 5 minutes. And so is there something in your life that you could do, that you could complete, and maybe not 5 minutes, but like give yourself 15 minutes, that you would be able to complete in 15 minutes and be done with it? And no more fussing over that thing. And sometimes that's the one small thing that you can do. And the other question is, how can you take even more care? So as we feel the changes coming and all around, how can you take more care? Usually you know what the thing is that is. Sometimes I wish for someone else to know the thing that would give me more care. I kind of have fantasies sometimes about someone else, anyone, not even a specific person, just knowing like the one sweet touch that I need, or the look, or that little bit of motivation. And sometimes it happens, but usually we know. And sometimes I'll know, like, I was not feeling that great today, and I knew that Jason would never say this to me. He wouldn't offer it to me because it's just not the way he thinks, I think. But I said, Jason, can you please tell me I'm a good baby? And he did. And it was great. But it was me that knew the thing that I needed to hear. So how can you take even more care? Whatever the first thing is that pops up for you. More sleep, a little bit more water, all those little things that sometimes are hard to do as caretaking. But when we do them, we do feel just a tiny bit better. And I'll just read this interpretation of small exceeding because it's quite nice. This is a moment when you step over a line, and small exceeding means making this crossing in small ways, going beyond boundaries and structures, but paying close attention to them, always responding and adjusting, like a humble traveler crossing over great mountains. This is a creative way to engage with the world, no matter how small you feel. You're in no position to realize great things all at once, but it is worthwhile to do the smaller things that are within your capacity, taking small steps with consistent purpose. Small exceeding is like a bird in flight, small, exposed, and vulnerable as it crosses over a vast expanse of sky. It must come down and settle eventually, and even as it passes by and is gone, its call reminds you not to go against your nature and overreach yourself. For your own unique call to be heard, you need to fly closer to the ground, and pay attention to details, creating a more sensitive connection with your world. When you come down to earth in this way, scaling down your aspirations, crossing over in small ways and doing small works, then you enjoy great good fortune. And this reminds me too, one other thing about the decluttering right now is just, this is the time of my life, but I also kind of wonder if this is a good time for most of us to look at some of our dreams and aspirations and see if some of them just don't apply anymore and that they could just be let go, just gently released and let go, so that it makes way for some of the aspirations and dreams that are really more in the forefront or more to do with you now as you are, in your fullness, in your integrity, with your boundaries intact. Like when you're really acting from this place of desire, full desire, that means you're all in. That means every part of you has said yes to this activity or this meeting or this project or this creative act. Every part of you saying yes means that some of your old dreams that involved you shutting down some part of yourself, those are no longer on the table, because you cannot be that person that shuts yourself half down in order to accomplish a thing. You have to be fully in. That's what the world wants, is your full participation, not half a participation. So maybe that's a nice thing if you just take a quick little inventory of some of the dreams that you had, that when you look at them, they required you to be something other than your fully authentic self. Because there's enough dreams to go around that include the whole self, that it's okay to let some of them go. And I have to say, some of that letting go might be a little hurty and might require you to look at how you process grief. And, for some of us, there's no answer to that. It's like, oh, I don't. The answer is I don't process grief. So that's when some of the breath work comes in, the slowing down, paying attention to your mind, and taking really good care of yourself. And I don't know, like when I do grief work, a lot of it for me is simply paying attention and honoring myself. Like I really have to put my hand on my heart. And this is something that I learned in therapy to, like, it's not that I would never do that before, but like to deliberately and slowly come back to my body and say thank you and realize I'm here with my own body and I'm going to stay with these feelings. And it's almost as if that's all I ever wanted, was my own recognition, my own hand on my heart, coming back and saying, wow, I feel that. I really, really feel that. Because so much of my, what I did when I started to feel the tiniest bit of grief was just run away, try not to feel it. I think that's a lot of us do that. Just so that act of staying is quite potent. Just staying. Like wherever you are right now, just put your hand on your heart. It's like, oh, here I am. Here I am. I would like to pull an animal spirit card before we go. So I'm going to just do that really quick. Oh, wow. I don't think I've ever gotten this one. We got the nightingale. Fearless voice, speech, communication, or song. This is from the Animal Spirit Guidebook by Kim Kranz. The song of the nightingale is otherworldly. This simple brown bird, almost unnoticeable among the flashy plumage of other birds, transports its listener to the realm of poetry. Nightingale energy is with us when we write, compose, and especially when we sing. It reminds us that music heals the deepest wounds. This card indicates a need to open the bridge between the heart and the voice. Is there something you need to say? How long has it been since you sang? Turn it up, write it down, and let it out. Nightingale. Okay, that's it for this episode. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. You can always find me on my website, www.annhedley.com. Until next time, may you be well, may you know peace, and may all beings everywhere, whether known to me or unknown, know peace, and may they be well. Bye for now.